Well, revenue sharing is coming to college football. Here's how it affects your Hoosiers. What's up, guys? My name is Ben. I'm a law student and a writer here at Hoosier Huddle, and I'm going to be breaking down the recent House versus NCAA settlement and what it means for college athletes going forward. So, briefly, in the past couple weeks, the NCAA and the Power 5 conferences have reached a settlement agreement to end their ongoing lawsuit in California surrounding the NCAA's restrictions of how athletes can earn NIL revenue. This case was in front of Judge Claudia Wilkin, who decided both the O'Bannon and Alston cases, two landmark NIL cases, which the NCAA ultimately lost. Now, the NCAA couldn't afford to lose this case, so they decided to settle. So what exactly does the settlement entail? Well, really there's two prongs. The first of these prongs is to compensate players for the revenue that they've already lost out on. This includes $2.8 billion in damages that are to be paid out among three classes of athletes. The first of these three classes includes athletes who played major conference college football and basketball, commonly referred to as the revenue-generating sports. The second of these refers to athletes who played major conference women's basketball. The third and final class includes all other Division I college athletes who competed between 2016 and 2020 and have joined the lawsuit. This includes Arizona State swimmer Grant House, for whom this case is named. As of right now, we don't have all the details about how these back payments are going to work, but we do know that this money will be paid over the next 10 years by both the NCAA and the Division I colleges and universities. In terms of the percentage split, the NCAA would be responsible for roughly 41%, which comes out to around $1 billion. The Power 5 conferences would then be responsible for 24%, the remaining CFP conferences for 10%, the FCS would pay 12%, and all other non-football D1 conferences, such as the Big East, would pay 12% as well. The second part of this settlement is arguably more game-changing and historic in terms of collegiate athletics, and that is the fact that revenue sharing is now going to be allowed for colleges and collegiate athletes. Specifically, the settlement holds that starting with the 2025 football season, the NCAA is going to allow its D1 schools to set aside upwards of $20 million from their TV, brand, and video game deals to directly pay their athletes. Now, it's important to note that while they have the option to pay their athletes upwards of $20 million, it's not a requirement. It's completely up to each individual school's choice. So this means that some schools may choose to pay basketball players more than football players and vice versa. Additionally, it's not known if Title IX would apply to this settlement, which would include equal opportunities for men and women in collegiate athletics, and as such, equal pay. Look for clarification on this in the coming weeks and months moving forward. This also wouldn't affect the recent cases of schools trying to unionize, such as Northwestern and Dartmouth. So, why did the NCAA settle this case? Well, the short answer is money. If this had gone to trial and Judge Wilkin had ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, the NCAA would be on the hook for upwards of $4 billion, as opposed to the $2 billion they're paying out in the settlement. As such, they felt that this was a fair trade-off and a way to keep collegiate athletics alive, as $4 billion would essentially cripple collegiate athletics as we know. So what does this all mean moving forward? The NCAA has been trying to get Congress to act on this for years, ever since NIL was first proposed, but Congress has been completely hesitant to do so, and given that this is an election year, it's unlikely they're going to do anything before the election. In the future, though, the NCAA might push for something called an antitrust exception. This is something that Major League Baseball has had for decades. It basically prevents plaintiffs from suing over these unfair practices because the league is exempt from these practices in U.S. law. So, what does this all mean for your Hoosiers going forward? Well, first off, as we know, IU is in a Power 5 conference, so they are in the Big Ten, which means they will be on the hook for 25% of the back damages that are going to come out of this, and they will have the ability to pay their players upwards of $22 million starting in the 2025 season. This is huge for IU. In this upcoming landscape, it's really going to broaden the gap between the haves and the have-nots of college football. IU has traditionally been somewhere in the middle of that, in the league with the haves, but sort of in the have-not section of that. The good news is IU has a very, very profitable athletic department, and as such could completely afford to pay its football players upwards of the $20 million that are allowed under the settlement. So there's a lot to be excited about. We could see higher rated players coming to IU because of the money that's offered here, and we can see high ranking players staying as Coach Sig builds a winning culture and the money continues to flow. So there's a lot to be excited right now. While there's still a ton of unknowns, it's clear that the collegiate landscape has completely changed, and it might be a good thing for your Hoosiers. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Here at Hoosier Huddle, we're going to be covering everything Indiana football from the preseason through the entire season, so keep it locked here.